Once in a quiet, rural village nestled among rolling hills and narrow red dirt paths, there lived two inseparable friends. Amara and Nia had known each other since they were 5. They shared everything from mangoes plucked secretly from old Mama Luma's tree to dreams scribbled in school notebooks under candlelight. Everyone in the village thought they were sisters. They grew up side by side, walked the same roads to school barefoot, and later, by some miracle of destiny and scholarships, were accepted into the same university in the city. Life had never been easy, but they faced it together, always with laughter and fierce loyalty. After graduation, unable to find jobs in the congested city, they returned to their village, their degrees folded under their arms, their eyes searching for hope on familiar soil. But the village had no jobs, no opportunities, just idle heat and whispers of disappointment. Naya took it the hardest. "I'm tired, Amara," she said one evening as they sat outside their shared room, watching the sun disappear into banana groves. "We suffered through school, wore second-hand clothes, starved to pay tuition. And for what? To rot here?" Amara, ever the calm one, tried to soothe her. "God's time is best," she would say with a gentle smile. "Maybe something will come." But Nia wasn't built for patience. One morning, Amara woke to find Nia's bed empty. Her clothes, her bag, everything was gone. She didn't tell anyone. No goodbye, just vanished. Weeks turned into months. Amara worried herself sick. The village didn't care much. They whispered, probably went to the city again to hustle. But Amara knew Nia too well. She wouldn't have left without a word unless something was terribly wrong. Then, one humid afternoon, as Amara swept the front of their compound, a shadow appeared at the gate. It was Nia. But not the Nia Amara knew. She looked thin, her skin had lost its glow, and her stomach was round with pregnancy. Amara dropped the broom and rushed to her. "What happened? Where have you been?" Nia couldn't speak much. Her voice was weak, her eyes swollen as if she hadn't slept in weeks. Amara helped her inside and laid her down on the bamboo mat. "Rest first. We'll talk later. I'll make soup." But that night, Nia's screams jolted Amara from sleep. The baby was coming. There was no one else around. Amara sprinted barefoot through the darkness to the home of the village midwife, a grumpy old woman who hated being disturbed at night. "Please, help me. My friend is in labor," Amara begged. The woman sighed but agreed. By the time they returned, Nia had already given birth. Not to one, but 2 babies, a boy and a girl. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. Amara knelt beside her, tears in her eyes. "You'll be okay. You're strong." But Nia held her hand weakly. "I'm dying, Amara. I feel it." Amara shook her head. No, don't say that." But Nia's eyes were distant. "Please," she whispered, "take care of them, like you took care of me. Promise me. Promise me." Amara sobbed and nodded. "Okay, I promise." Nia gave her a final soft smile and closed her eyes. Forever. Amara didn't have time to cry properly. The midwife helped clean the babies. Word spread quickly. Nia's parents came to collect the body, but when they saw the twins, the air turned cold. Her father spat. "She disgraced us once, and now this. We already disowned her. These bastards are not our grandchildren. The only reason we came is to bury her quickly before gossip spreads." Her mother didn't even look at the babies. "If you want to keep them, that's your business. Don't bring shame to our house again." With that, they left. Amara stood frozen, one baby in her arms, the other still wrapped in a towel on the floor. Her heart broke all over again. That night, as she rocked the twins to sleep, Amara whispered names. Tari for the boy, Tammy for the girl. "You're mine now," she said. "I don't have much, but I have love. You will never lack that." She had no job, no family of her own, just a tiny room and faith. But she was determined. A few days later, her fiancé Luke returned from a business trip. She explained everything, hoping he would understand. At first, he did. He even smiled. "I'll support you," he said. "We'll raise them together." Amara's heart swelled with gratitude. She believed maybe love truly conquers all. But the world isn't so kind. Whispers started. The neighbors gossiped. Her fiancé changed. One night, he sat her down. "I don't think I can do this anymore. People talk, they say I'm weak, that I'm raising another man's children." Amara's heart sank. They are just children. They have no one else. Why care what others say? Luke stood up, his tone sharper now. "I make the decisions here. I sent you to school. I gave you a place to live. And you choose them over me. Either you send them away or you leave." Amara stared at him, stunned. It was past 10 p.m. "Where do you want me to go with 2 babies?" He didn't answer, just walked into the bedroom, packed a small bag of her clothes, and threw it outside. "Make your choice." He slammed the door. With Tari tied on her back and Tammy in her arms, Amara stepped out into the night. The moon offered faint light. She walked, not knowing where to go. Every door she knocked on was met with silence or rejection. The village had no room for a single woman with 2 babies and no blood ties. Finally, she made it to the highway, then to the edge of the city, hitching a ride with a kind truck driver who asked no questions. By the time they reached the city, the sky was darkening, and a storm threatened above. She spotted an abandoned roadside stall with a rickety wooden roof and leaned against it, exhausted. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. She laid out a piece of cloth, placed Tammy down gently, untied Tari from her back, and placed him next to his sister. She curled herself around them like a shield, her back against the rain-soaked wind. She didn't cry. She had no tears left. Instead, she looked at the twins and whispered, "It's going to be okay. I don't know how yet, but I promise you this, I'll never leave you." And in that moment, the city roared around her. Cars passed, people rushed home. But inside that tiny stall, a new family was born. Not from blood, but from a promise stronger than any bond. That was the night Amara became a mother. The morning after the storm was quiet, the kind of stillness that settles right before life begins stirring again. Amara opened her eyes slowly, her back aching from the hard floor of the old stall, her arms still protectively curled around the sleeping twins. A few stray drops dripped through the gaps in the roof, landing softly beside them. Tari and Tammy stirred, not from the cold but from hunger. Amara knew the signs too well now. Her breasts were dry. She had no food, no milk, no coins. But her heart, somehow, still had strength. She strapped Tari to her back, carried Tammy in front, and stepped into the sunlit streets of the city. She had only one asset left: her phone. A basic model, a gift from Luke long before their love turned to stone. She walked to the nearest roadside phone vendor and spoke with quiet dignity. "Excuse me, sir, could I sell my phone? I need to feed my children." The vendor, a boy not much older than 18, inspected it, shrugged. "It's old, but I'll give you something." He handed her a crumpled note and a few coins. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a bowl of pap, a small tin of milk, and 2 diapers. For now, that was enough. She returned to the stall and sat on the edge of the concrete step, feeding the babies one at a time with her fingers, whispering lullabies she barely remembered. People passed her without a glance, some with curious eyes, others with disdain. One woman murmured, "Shameless girl," opening her legs and now dragging twins around for pity. Amara didn't look up. She had no time for shame. She was a mother now. By noon, she remembered Sharon, a university friend of Nia's, someone who had once promised to help if she ever came to the city. She had saved her number in her notebook, the only thing in her bag that hadn't been soaked by rain. She borrowed a woman's phone in the market and called. Sharon answered. When Amara explained who she was, Sharon's voice shifted. She sounded surprised, then delighted. "Come over. I have something that might interest you." Her house was a world apart. White tiles, glass windows, a front yard with trimmed flowers. Amara stood awkwardly at the gate, a baby on each side, her wrapper stained, her feet dusty. Sharon greeted her with feigned excitement, ushering her in quickly before the neighbors could stare too long. "You poor thing," she said, fanning herself dramatically. "I heard about Nia. Such a tragedy. But this? Twins? Wow." Amara nodded, holding Terry a little tighter. "I'm trying to find their father, but so far, nothing." Sharon waved dismissively. "Men are useless. But you know, this might be your lucky break." "What do you mean?" Amara asked. Sharon leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "I know someone, a woman from abroad. She adopts children, pays well, sometimes over 1,000,000 naira per child." Amara stared at her. Silence filled the room. "You're joking," she said, her voice tight. "I'm not. Look, think about it. You're living in a stall. No job, no money. These kids will destroy you. This is your way out." Amara stood up slowly. "I guess I came to the wrong place." She turned and walked toward the door. Sharon called after her. "Don't be stupid. They're not even your blood." But Amara was already gone. Outside, the city heat pressed against her skin. Tari was crying again, and Tammy began to whimper too. She looked down at them, kissed their foreheads. "We're going to be okay. We will." She passed a small kiosk and saw a woman selling sachets of tomato and pepper. The idea struck like lightning. Something simple, something small. She had just enough to buy half a basket. She bought a tray, borrowed a stool from a kind vendor, and set up at the market entrance the next morning. And so began the days of tomato hawking. Amara became a familiar sight, the girl with twins strapped front and back, calling out, "Fresh tomato, very red, sweet for stew." Some people pitied her and bought a little. Others ignored her. Some mocked. "That girl? She must have slept around. Now she wants us to buy pity tomatoes." Amara said nothing. She focused on selling, feeding, and surviving. The twins never cried much. They seemed to understand. On hot days, she poured water on their heads. When it rained, she held banana leaves above their heads and laughed with them. Months passed, and then, one afternoon, her life took a sharp turn. She was in the market when she saw a commotion. A young man, a taxi driver, was shouting at an old man who looked confused and shaken. "You used my service, and now you don't want to pay? You think I'm your son?" "Please," the old man pleaded. "My money was stolen. I swear I'll pay you back. Just let me call my son." The driver laughed bitterly and shoved the man so hard he fell. People stood watching but did nothing. Amara ran forward. "Stop it. He's old enough to be your father. Show some respect." The driver turned on her. And who called you into this? She didn't flinch. How much does he owe? 500 naira. She untied the cloth around her waist, dug into her wrapper, and handed him the last note she had earned that day. Here, take it. The driver took it, glared at her, then sneered. You think you're a savior? He slapped her tray off her stool and walked off. Her tomatoes rolled everywhere. She dropped to the ground, collecting what she could, tears burning behind her eyes. The old man knelt beside her, helping. I'm sorry. I caused this. No, you didn't, Amara said. You didn't deserve what he did. He introduced himself as Papa Joe. He offered to walk her home. She hesitated, then agreed. His house was small, walls cracking at the corners, a rusted zinc roof that whined in the wind. But it was peaceful. He brewed hot tea and gave her mashed plantain with stew. As she fed the twins, he watched them with wonder. You have a good heart, young lady, and they are beautiful children. Amara smiled. They're not mine by blood, but I love them more than life. Papa Joe nodded thoughtfully. You know, I live alone. My son left me years ago. Maybe you and the children could stay here, just for a while. It's lonely here, but with their laughter, maybe this old house will feel young again. Amara's heart swelled. Are you sure? He nodded. Absolutely. That night, after bathing the twins in warm water and putting them to sleep on Papa Joe's old couch, Amara stepped outside into the moonlight. She looked up at the sky, whispered a quiet thank you, then went back in and curled beside her children. For the first time in months, she slept without fear. Amara settled into Papa Joe's home as if it had been waiting for her all along. The old man wasn't wealthy, but he had something she hadn't felt in a long time, gentleness. He would wake early, boil water for her to bathe the twins, and tell them stories while she cooked or prepared to hawk tomatoes. The house, once echoing with silence, was now filled with soft giggles, baby coos, and the clatter of daily life. Papa Joe became their grandfather in every sense except blood, and Amara, for the first time since Nia's death, began to breathe without pain wrapped around every breath. He even gave her a gift, a small wooden stall he had once used to sell herbs before his legs became too weak to walk far. With it, Amara shifted from hawking to owning a fixed spot in the market. There, under a sun-faded umbrella, she started selling puff-puffs. Her hands were quick, her oil always hot, and the smell drew customers like bees. With the help of Papa Joe's small loan and his broken but useful utensils, she began again. Months melted into years. Tari and Tammy grew tall and curious. They loved the market, always running between vendors, greeting customers, and helping Amara sort tomatoes or mix flour. But there was something else about them. A gift. Every time they sang together, the whole market seemed to stop. Women paused mid-haggle, men lifted their heads from newspapers, children gathered with wide eyes. Their voices were clear, powerful, and harmonized like water flowing into water. Amara noticed it early on, but she didn't know what to do with it. All she knew was that when Tari and Tammy sang, she forgot every wound in her soul. So did everyone else. People began dropping coins into a tin beside their stall when they sang. Not because they were begging, but because their voices stirred something holy. By the time they were 10, they could sing in both Yoruba and English. Even the butcher, a man known for never smiling, once leaned over and whispered, "Those kids, they're touched by God." Amara taught them humility. Every coin they earned went into a tin that she kept hidden. One day she told them, "This will matter. Maybe not now, but someday all these small blessings will grow into something too big for us to imagine." It was an ordinary Sunday afternoon when the extraordinary arrived. They were almost leaving the house to go sing at the evening market when a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up in front of Papa Joe's gate. It looked like a car from the movies, big and sleek, and it didn't belong to the dusty, humble road it now stood on. Amara froze, wiping her hands on her wrapper, confused. Were they expecting anyone? No. Tari and Tammy stood beside her, just as unsure. A tall woman in sunglasses stepped out, dressed in a navy blue pantsuit that screamed confidence and city power. "Good day," she said, removing her sunglasses. "Are you Miss Amara, mother of Tari and Tammy?" Amara's breath caught. "Yes," she replied slowly. "How may I help you?" "I'm Belinda Osei. I manage young musical talents across Africa and the U.S. A few weeks ago, someone posted a video of your children singing at the market. It went viral, over 5 million views." She held out her phone and showed them the video. The twins' faces lit up. "That's us," Tari shouted. "That's us, Mommy. I remember that day." Amara's eyes were still fixed on the screen where a stranger had recorded her children's performance without her knowledge. They sounded angelic. Their voices floated through the crowd, echoed off stalls, reached places she never knew existed. She looked at Belinda with wide, trembling eyes. "What does this mean?" "It means they have a gift the world needs to hear, and I want to help them." Belinda handed her a business card. "I can offer them training, travel, studio time, everything they need to become international stars. Think about it. This is real. This is now." Amara stood speechless as Belinda walked back to her car. She turned, smiled at the twins one more time, and then drove off, leaving behind a cloud of dust and a dozen new dreams. That night, Amara could not sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, her hands tightly clutching Belinda's card, her eyes swollen from quiet tears. Papa Joe walked in slowly and sat beside her. "You're worried. That's good. Only people who love deeply worry this much." "What if I let them go and something happens?" she whispered. "What if they forget me? What if I lose them?" Papa Joe placed a warm, wrinkled hand over hers. "You're not losing them. You're giving them wings, and if you raise them right, they'll always know how to fly back home." The next morning, Tari and Tammy found her crying softly into her hands. They rushed to her side. "Mom, if you don't want us to go, we won't," Tari said, his little voice steady. "We just want you to be happy," Tammy added, her eyes already shimmering. Amara looked at them, cupped their faces. "I want you to chase every dream your heart sings about. Just promise me one thing. Promise you'll take care of each other." "We promise," they said in unison. A week later, Amara used all her savings to buy new clothes for them. She braided Tammy's hair herself and adjusted Tari's shirt a dozen times. She wanted them to look like stars before they even got on the plane. Belinda arrived with 2 assistants and a suitcase full of papers, contracts, consent forms, and flight details. As the car rolled away, Amara stood at the gate with Papa Joe, waving until the car was no longer in sight. She didn't move for a long time. Months passed. They spoke on the phone every few days. Tari would tell her about their singing lessons. Tammy would sing a lullaby she missed. But one day, the calls stopped. Just like that. No warning. No explanation. Amara called again and again. Nothing. Her heart began to break slowly, not with fire, but with frost, bit by bit, like ice spreading over a lake. Papa Joe tried to calm her, but he had grown sick. His strength was leaving him. He couldn't even walk to the door anymore. Amara took care of him and kept trying the twins' numbers every night. But there was no answer. One morning, she brought food to the hospital only to find Papa Joe's bed empty. He had passed in the night, and his son had come to claim his body. No funeral, no message, just gone. Then came the final blow. A knock on the door weeks later. Amara opened it, still expecting to see her children. Instead, she found George, Papa Joe's estranged son. "I'm here to take over the house and sell it. And the market stall, too," he said. Amara's legs wobbled. "Please," she begged. "This is my only home, my children's home." He smiled coldly. "Maybe we can work something out." "You're a beautiful woman, Amara." She stepped back immediately. "That will never happen." "Then get out. Now." She pleaded, cried, even knelt. But George was merciless. With nowhere else to go, she packed her few belongings and left. Again. Back to the street. Back to the unknown. But this time, the betrayal cut deeper. Because now, she had tasted peace. And peace taken is more painful than peace never known. The world outside Papa Joe's home was not welcoming. The road was long, the dust thick, and every corner seemed to echo with judgment. As Amara walked with her small bag on one shoulder, the other hand holding the picture of Tari and Tammy, she passed women who once shared jokes with her in the market. Now they whispered behind cupped hands, their laughter like knives on her back. "There she goes, the proud mother. Now look, no home, no children. What a shame." She didn't turn around. She kept walking. It was late when she reached the old wooden church. The doors were closed, but the veranda was open. She sat down slowly, holding the frame close to her chest. The twins were smiling in the photo, their eyes bright with promise. She closed her own and whispered into the quiet, "Please, God, keep them safe. That's all I ask." The days that followed blurred into each other. Every morning before the church opened, she would disappear. Walk the streets, beg sometimes. Not with words, but with tired eyes and trembling hands. Sometimes she ate. Sometimes she didn't. Every evening she returned to the veranda. It became her new shelter. Her body thinned, her voice weakened, but she never stopped going into the church to pray when it opened. Her prayer was always the same. "Don't let them forget me. Please, just let them be okay." One morning, she didn't wake up. The young church assistant, Joan, tapped her shoulder gently. Then again, and again. But Amara didn't move. Her head was bowed, her hands still gripping the frame. Joan called for help, her voice shaken. Within minutes, 2 other workers helped carry Amara inside. She was breathing, but barely. Cold had seeped into her bones. Her skin was pale. The doctors later said it was hypothermia. Long-term exposure to the cold had shut her body down slowly. The hospital tried their best, but no one knew who she was. No ID, no relatives, just a framed picture of 2 children. A nurse taped the photo to the end of her bed. For 3 days, Amara didn't wake. Her body was too weak. Her mind floated in dreams where she called the names of her children over and over, but no one answered. Joan couldn't sleep. Something about Amara's stillness haunted her. She asked the church to raise funds, but the donations were small. So she took a bold step. She recorded a short video showing Amara's face, the photo of the twins, and shared it online with the caption, "Does anyone know this woman? She's in critical condition and needs help." These children may be her family. Please share." The post spread slowly. At first, only sympathetic comments appeared. Then someone recognized the children. "Wait, aren't these the kids who sang in that viral video?" Another person posted an old screenshot of Terry and Tammy from the original viral clip. The pieces began to connect. Meanwhile, far from the dusty streets of Lagos, in a brightly lit rehearsal studio in New York City, Tari's phone buzzed. He had just finished a vocal session and checked his messages casually. His eyes widened. "Tammy, come look at this." She rushed over, and they stared at Joan's video, at their mother's pale face on the hospital bed. Without a word, they jumped into action. 3 SUVs rolled through the neighborhood where Papa Joe's house used to be. Tari and Tammy stepped out in matching suits, now tall, elegant, and nothing like the children who once sang for coins. A crowd gathered. An older woman recognized them instantly and rushed over. "Oh, children, your mother. Your mother went through so much. Papa Joe died. His son threw her out. She didn't even have a place to stay. I think she went to the church near the main road." Tammy burst into tears. Tari held her tight, his own voice cracking. "Where is she now?" Someone handed him a phone. He clicked on the video. His knees almost buckled. It was her. It was really her. Without wasting another breath, they raced to the hospital. The nurse tried to stop them at the entrance, but Tari brushed past. Tammy followed close behind. When they reached the ward and saw her lying there, her face sunken, her skin so pale she looked like a ghost of herself, they both dropped to their knees beside the bed. Mom, we're here. Wake up, please. We're so sorry." Tari held her hand tightly, tears soaking the sheets. The doctor arrived, confused until he saw the resemblance. He hesitated. "Her treatment is expensive. We didn't think—" "Do your job, doctor." Tari's voice was steel. "I don't care what it costs. If anything happens to her, this hospital won't survive the storm I'll bring." The doctor nodded quickly and rushed to begin the procedures. Hours passed. Amara's condition stabilized, but she didn't wake. The doctors said her body was responding, but the trauma had forced her mind to retreat. "She may be hearing you," they said. "Keep talking to her." So they did. Every minute, one of them held her hand and told her stories. "Remember the time you taught us how to fry puff puffs, Mom? You said mine looked like rocks and laughed until you cried. Remember when you gave up your only meal so we could eat? We haven't forgotten. We'll never forget." On the 5th day, she moved, a small flutter in her hand. Then her eyelids trembled. Then, slowly, painfully, they opened. The first thing she saw were her children, both holding her, their cheeks wet with tears, her lips curved slightly. "You came back." They collapsed into her arms, sobbing. "We're sorry. We're so sorry." She nodded weakly. "You're safe. That's all that matters." In the days that followed, her recovery was fast. Doctors were stunned, but Tari and Tammy knew it was the strength she'd carried for them all her life, now carrying her back. They told her everything. How their manager had stolen from them. How they had been cut off from the outside world until he was arrested. They'd sent her a package, months ago, money, letters, everything. But she'd never received it. "I'm sure George took it," Amara said. Tari's face darkened. "We'll deal with him." But Amara shook her head. "Leave it. God already has." When she was discharged, Tari and Tammy took her home. Except this wasn't a home she remembered. They drove into a compound so wide it had 3 fountains and a tiled driveway that sparkled under the sun. The house was white, tall, glassy, and beautiful, like a palace from another world. What is this? It's yours, Mom. This house. And 3 others we're building for you, all in your name. The cars, too. Her hands trembled. I don't deserve all this. You deserve more, they said together. That night she cried again, but for once, not from pain, from gratitude, from joy, from everything she thought she'd never live to see. Amara stood in the center of her new living room, her bare feet pressing into cool marble tiles. She had never dared to dream of such a home, let alone live in one. White walls lined with soft gold accents, chandeliers that looked like clouds suspended in time, and wide windows that opened to a garden bigger than the house she had once been evicted from. But more than the beauty, it was the warmth that enveloped her. The laughter of Tari and Tammy echoing through the hallway, the scent of fresh bread baking in a kitchen she never imagined she'd own, and the knowledge that her children were home again. She spent her days slowly reclaiming the parts of herself she had hidden to survive. She danced again, humming songs they used to sing at the market. She cooked, telling jokes while chopping vegetables, and every evening she walked barefoot through the garden with her twins, watching the sun dip behind the trees. But despite the joy, a piece of her still pulsed with a quiet ache, an echo of those cold nights on the veranda, of Papa Joe's laughter that no longer filled their mornings, and of a promise she had made to a dying friend long ago. It was Tari who suggested they visit Papa Joe's grave. "We owe him that much, Mom," he said. "He gave us a home when no one else would." They returned to the neighborhood in a convoy of quiet reverence. George, the man who once threw her into the streets, had long since vanished from the area. When they offered to buy the apartment back, he appeared shamelessly, counting every dollar of the payment with greasy fingers. Amara said nothing. Some things were better left to God. Together, they cleaned Papa Joe's headstone, laid flowers, and sat in silence. Tammy played a song they had written for him. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was soft, full of warmth, like the way Papa Joe used to hum when he stirred porridge in the morning. Amara whispered, "Thank you for everything. You gave us light when we were drowning in darkness. I wish you were here to see them now, your angels." They drove home slowly, the wind warm against their faces. But the world had one more shadow to cast. It came in the form of a phone call, an unknown number. Amara hesitated, then answered. "How have you been, Sarah?" She froze. The voice, old, familiar, acidic. Sandra's mother. "We need to talk about my grandchildren." Amara's stomach turned. Her grip on the phone tightened. "Why now?" she asked. "You disowned your daughter. You spat on her grave. You called her babies bastards. Now, because they're rich and famous, they've suddenly become your grandchildren? That's not fair," the woman snapped. "Families make mistakes, but blood is blood, and we want them back." Amara laughed bitterly. "Over my dead body." Before the woman could reply, she hung up, blocked the number. But the damage was already done. Her hands were shaken. Her heart thundered. That evening, Tari and Tammy found her sitting alone by the window. They had heard everything. They didn't need to ask. Was that her? Amara nodded slowly. "We know we're not your biological children," Tari said softly. "We overheard once when you were talking to Papa Joe." She turned to them, her eyes wide with guilt. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know when." "You don't need to," Tammy whispered. "It doesn't matter who gave birth to us. You raised us. You loved us. That's all we care about." Tears flooded her eyes again. "You could go find them if you wanted to," she said. "You have that right." They both stepped forward, knelt beside her, and took her hands. "No, Mom. You're our only family. You gave up everything for us. Blood didn't do that. Love did." She wrapped her arms around them, sobbing silently into their shoulders. The kind of tears that come when the heart is finally unburdened. Days passed. Weeks. Together, they began building something bigger than a home. Tari and Tammy used their fame to create a foundation in Amara's name. A home for women like her single mothers, outcasts, the forgotten. Women who had fallen through the cracks. It was called the Garden of Mercy, and it became a sanctuary of hope. On the opening day, Amara stood on a small stage, looking out at a crowd of women, children, and former neighbors who had once mocked her. Her voice shook, but her spine held straight. "There was a time I begged for scraps, a time I slept on concrete and prayed the rain would pass me by, a time I felt invisible. But one thing never changed my love for my children. And that love saved me, carried me, brought me here. Family is not always blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stay, even when the world tells them to walk away." The applause that followed shook her to the core. That night, as they returned to their mansion, Tari and Tammy held her hands in the back seat, humming softly. "What now?" Amara asked. "Now," Tammy said with a grin, "we spoil you forever." And spoil her they did. Trips to Cape Town, dresses made of silk, dinners under chandeliers. But Amara remained the same woman, still rising early, still cooking, still praying. Because beneath the luxury was a woman who had once faced the pit of the world and walked out whole. One morning, as she opened the window to let the sun in, a small package sat at the doorstep. There was no name on it. Inside was a framed photo of Sandra, smiling brightly in her university gown. At the back, in faded ink, were the words, "Thank you for keeping your promise." She pressed the photo to her heart. "I kept them safe, Sandra. I did. I hope you see them now." She placed the frame beside the one of the twins in the living room, side by side. The sister she lost, the children she gained, a full circle. And as the sun bathed the house in gold, Amara closed her eyes and smiled, peaceful, whole, and finally free.